Victor Wooten, one of my favorite music educators, has brilliantly stated how there are no wrong notes. This is a powerful idea for guitarists to put pressure on themselves to avoid using the wrong notes. Fortunately, the 12 notes that make up the chromatic scale team up to erase the idea of mistakes completely. The challenge, though, is finding a way to make chromaticism, or the use of notes outside of a diatonic scale, sound good. I had a rock and roll viewer write to me recently about the chromatic scale and how it can be used in rock and metal music. This immediately got my gears turning, and I figured this would be a good opportunity to share with you how chromaticism can be used in those styles of playing. Stay tuned because not only am I going to show you that and have a deeper discussion with you about it, but I'll also be giving away a super sweet bonus that'll go along with this material, and you're not going to want to miss out on that. So grab your axe, take a seat, and let's get ready to rock. So we're going to briefly begin with a quick overview about the chromatic scale and what it looks like and things like that, because it is the fundamental concept that contributes to the idea of chromaticism. So basically, the chromatic scale consists of all 12 possible notes that exist from one octave to another, particularly in Western music. And each note is one half step away from the other. So the scale can be played in multiple different ways, but it's easiest to visualize it across the fretboard in a horizontal fashion, or I guess maybe a lateral fashion. So the best way to picture this is to consider all notes from one open string all the way to the 12th fret of your guitar. So in this case, I happen to be tuned to drop D tuning because of the examples I'll be showing you throughout this lesson that demonstrate the application of this scale in real world scenarios. But all you basically need to do, like I said, is just play every single half note, starting with the open string up to the 12th fret. For a scale that's pretty simple to understand up front, a lot of players realize how complex it can be when it comes to applying it in a way that sounds good. So let's take the concepts of chromaticism and the chromatic scale and try to work them into some ideas and identify them in existing ideas that sound musical. So let's start with a riffing scenario. When it comes to riffs, using chromaticism can be a fun way to embrace some heavy, disorienting sounds. When the riff stands by itself and you're not necessarily playing it against something different like an existing melody, experimentation can be a pretty fun part of the process when you're trying to make music that you like. So you can free yourself up by the idea that there's not really any rules, at least in terms of melody. Although I do want to emphasize that when you're using anything in music, I am a firm believer that rhythm can be the most overlooked concept in music, because rhythm can include the ideas of accenting certain notes or chords. And basically, if you're going to paraphrase Victor Wooten, we don't headbang to the key of the song, we headbang to the rhythm of it. As long as you have rhythm and a sense of rhythm to breathe life into your riff, it almost doesn't matter what notes or chords you play. Since riffs are often repeated throughout songs, people can get used to odd chord progressions and accidentals real quick. When you free yourself up from thinking in terms of diatonic chord progressions alone, you may find that some of your best ideas will pour out of you pretty quickly. From my own recent experience, I managed to make up a riff literally in seconds just by being mindful of chromaticism and not really worrying about any other rules in music theory. The result was something that bordered into nu metal territory in the style of early Linkin Park or even some Slipknot. I just took the idea of 5 power chords, starting with the open power chord in drop D, where you just strum the top couple open strings, and then using those same strings but played on frets 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the rest was history. So before we continue and dive even deeper into this idea of chromaticism and how it can be used in rock and metal styles of playing, I do want to add a free gift for you to take away, especially if you're serious about leveling up your skills or if you feel discouraged about where you're at in your guitar journey. So if that's the case, I've got the perfect tool for you. It's my Guitar Gains cheat sheet, and it's a completely free resource that gives you my best scientifically based hacks on how to make consistent progress on the guitar. It also shows you how to eliminate poor practice habits like practicing in waves and what to do instead to get to the level you want to be at. It even includes a customizable goal setting template to help you figure out your next guitar goal and absolutely crush it. So just click the link in the description or go to zachsharguitar.com and download this awesome free resource. So now let's continue with the idea of chromaticism and how to use it into soloing in a way that's very intentional and musical. So when you're working with leads and solos, chromaticism can be a really fun thing to use, but there are a few considerations to keep in mind. And these considerations are similar to those you'd keep in mind when soloing with pretty much any other scale. Oftentimes, the chromatic scale is used to add a whimsical or even a disorienting sound. It's also often used to connect scale tones together by using off-key or out-of-key accidentals, which are the notes that tend to stand out the most for better or for worse. It's music, so it's all subjective, but there are some generalities that are pretty universally preferred by most listeners. So let's take a closer look at a real-world example of the chromatic scale in action. And what we're going to do for that is look at an excerpt from the song Backcountry by Avenged Sevenfold. And it's just a little snapshot of the end of one section of the guitar solo in that song. So we can kind of break this down in a way where we view it as being 3 chromatic lead groupings of sextuplets. So that is with the lead guitar, the solo guitar, and the start of each chromatic grouping begins with the same notes that the rhythm guitar switches to, only at a higher register. So when we look at this, here's the rhythm. And even though we're not working with chords per se, it doesn't really matter, because if we were, we could kind of look at each note as being the root of a chord or an implied chord. So in this sense, the lead guitar is matching the rhythm at the start of each new implied chord change. So if you've got a heavy rhythm guitar, like in this song, I consider that to be a pretty heavy rhythm, it's easy to have some nice flavorful leads to complement it. In this case, the choice was chromatic groupings, and then it kind of blends and morphs into some diatonic shred. So let's have a quick breakdown of this section by section. We're going to go to the rhythm guitar where we jam on D. And then from there, that's where our lead is starting. We're starting on D with the chromatics. And same thing here, we're going to go to E. And that's exactly where the lead shifts. We go up to E, and play those chromatic notes where we're just going back and forth 1/2 step at a time, starting on E, the 12th fret of the high E string. So those two chromatic groupings look pretty identical, just in a different position. We've got 4 notes in succession, with each note being a 1/2 step away from the other. And then lastly, we have one more chromatic grouping starting on F. And of course, as you might guess at this point, that's also where the rhythm guitar is going. So here at the lead, we're still doing some chromatics here. We're just skipping a note. We're skipping that F sharp and going right from F to G. And then from G, we just go up a 1/2 step for each note above that. And then at the very end there, the use of chromatics sort of blends and shifts into a diatonic phrase, where actually we're seeing a little bit from 2 different diatonic scales the way I look at this. We're using the natural minor scale and the harmonic minor scale because there's both a raised and a minor 7th scale degree. So you could also blend some chromatic scales into your favorite diatonic scales, such as the ones used in this example, which happen to be really good for heavy rock and metal music. Chromaticism is just one tool we can use that highlights the vastness of music. As rock and metal players, this device can be a lot of fun to use when laying down some headbanging riffs and some face-melting leads. By giving yourself a chance to explore all the notes in the chromatic scale, you get an opportunity to stumble across ideas that you likely wouldn't have found otherwise had you limited yourself to the confines of a given key with no additional notes outside of it. We can still hold on to some of the rules of music theory though, especially when writing leads over an accompanying chord progression or rhythm guitar part. And like everything else, this stuff takes time to grow familiar with. So just stick in and stay consistent, and the next thing you know, you'll be busting out chromatic ideas left and right. If you're serious about stepping up your guitar game, don't forget to download my free Guitar Gains cheat sheet if you have not done so already. It gives you my best scientifically based tips on how to make consistent progress, eliminate poor practice habits, figure out your next guitar goal, and absolutely crush it. Now's the time to be a next level musician, so just click the link in the description or go to zachsharguitar.com and download this awesome free resource. I'm Zach with Zach Shar Guitar. Thanks so much for watching, and God bless.